What's up, Junkies? It's your boy Kenshiro. We're back with Culture Junkies Live. We want to welcome you into the week of Wednesday, September 26th, the week after I turned 40 years old. So happy birthday to me. Also a early happy birthday to my fellow guest who's going to be on the show, Mr. GQ. His birthday is on Sunday. How old are you, my brother?
Older than you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Daido Kuji's birthday is not this month, but he's also welcome to the show. What's going on, man?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to contain my sneezes. They were going off like freaking firecrackers just a minute ago. Sorry.
Really? What you sneeze
Hi,
like?
everybody.
What do you sneeze like? Let me hear. What do you sneeze like?
Usually it's louder. I can't sneeze right now. I got the shit in my nose. I got to blow my nose out. And you might hear one. I might not be able to contain it via the show or during, I should say.
What kind of weird fetish is that to ask for sneezes on demand anyway?
I don't even know how
it's
to do
it's
that.
look. It's not a fetish. I'm not. Look, I'm just okay. Whatever. We're gonna move. We're just gonna move right along. We're just gonna move right along. Anyway, guys, welcome to the show. We hope you had a fantastic weekend. Today we're gonna be talking about the news that dropped today. The casting for DC's Birds of Prey. Whether this is going to end up being a pretty good movie or not. Also, the news that dropped about Fortnite and crossplay on the PS4, and whether that's a sign of things to come. And we're gonna finish that up with the talk about the hottest new book in comics today, which is Heroes in Crisis, talking about superhero PTSD. And is that even really a topic that people really want to be talking about? But first, let's get to the first main topic, and that's the announcement of the actresses that are going to be, not actresses, actors that are going to be playing Black Canary and Huntress in the DC's Bird of Prey movies. And playing the Huntress will be Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and Black Canary will be played by Journey Smollett Bell, who's the sister of Jussie Smollett, who plays he plays one of the Lion brothers on Empire. Very famous guy.
Remember his name.
Can't remember his name. I love the show, but I can't remember the name. In any case, it doesn't really matter. You also know her. She's a famous child actress. She's been playing. She's been acting for a number of years. Never really can't remember her in an action role, but doesn't really matter. Obviously, she's black, and Black Canary typically has not been a black person. So, what do you guys think of this casting? Was this a good choice for Huntress and Canary? What's your thoughts? Let's start with you, Daido.
I don't know why you started with me, man. I don't know what the hell these people.
Fine, I'll start with GQ. What's your thoughts on the castings? Good, bad?
Winstead is a good cast for Huntress. If anybody's seen Scott Pilgrim, she obviously played Ramona Flowers. She does a good job, playing that type of character. I mean, she could obviously turn it up to be, like an assassin, and play a little bit meaner character, especially with this being. This is going to be like TV, correct? I'm sorry, this is going to be an actual movie.
Yeah, it's a movie. Right?
Yeah, the only other person that I would have cast in that role would have been Sophia Boutella. That's probably the only other person that I would have cast as Huntress, outside of maybe Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So that's a good choice there. Who's the other person that was cast?
Journey Smollett Bell, who used to be on Full House a long time ago. She played I think she was Michelle's best friend, the black girl best friend. Forget her name on that show. Danielle, I think it was. But but she's been in a number of movies. I don't quite remember her in any action oriented roles. But and Daido, maybe you could talk about this too. Is this I mean, yes, obviously she's black, and typically Black Canary is not black; she's white. Is this much ado about? Black? I mean, it's not. There's no reason not to. I'm not saying that they couldn't or that they shouldn't.
They're changing everybody with the black in the name.
Yeah, and some people really don't like that. Some people, and I'm talking about black. No. I'm talking about some black people don't even like it. Some black people don't
because
like
comic book fans want their comic books and everything to be exactly how it was.
Well,
being the fact that it's written by those people, they don't want to change it. My honest opinion, who cares if you change it? is friggin' like it's not the same medium. You want to read the comics? Read the comics. You don't have to watch the movie. Anyway,
no, I get that real quick though, but it's like I think the problem, and I think what he's alluding to, is the fact that every black character is black this, black that.
Well,
right,
that is
right, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Black Manta,
Black Manta, yeah. See,
Now it's Black Canary, who typically was a white woman. Now it's
now she's gonna be black. So
Black Luke. Black Superman, Black
might as well, Black Vulcan.
Right, if black is in your name, chances are when
she's gonna be black.
Right. So it's like that one is a little bit of a stretch. Black Canary, obviously has had a particular look with the Arrowverse. You've seen how she's looked and all that other sort of thing. So it's kind of like that one. I don't see the need to change because I mean you got Black Cat, she's white as well. So it's like. It doesn't always have to be.
She is now, right? She will be when she comes into the movie. We will see. Right. Anyway, go ahead, finish the thought.
Oh no, that was pretty much it. No, go ahead, though. Yeah.
I just, casting for me, like too many people look at the casting and like, I don't think he's gonna do a job. I think he's gonna do a good job. You don't know if they're gonna do a good job till you see him, because like there are actors out there that have gotten. Good actors that got in bad roles or bad directors, bad scripts, what have you, and didn't do a very good job. You've seen them. We have all seen them. But first off, I didn't know it was a movie. I thought it was going to be a TV show because DC is throwing out way so much stuff that's like, I don't even know what's going on. There's no such thing as a DCEU anymore. If there was in the first place, I know it definitely isn't any now, but I thought Birds of Prey was a freaking TV show, but they tried that before already, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, and it didn't do so good.
It's because they don't have the division of the cartoons. Whoever writes the scripts for the cartoons or adapts them or what have you, they know what the fuck they're doing, and they won't put them in charge of the movies.
Right. Well, I want to say what's up to Simon Says in the chat. Also to Johnny Patton, who poses a question. Is it possible to have a show be too politically correct?
What show? What kind of show? I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, like in
just having
this instance,
black people in it don't make it politically correct. I don't understand that.
Well, if you think about it, I mean, because before they cast Black Canary as a black woman, and some people have said that they could have easily switched the roles and made Huntress black, but having a black Italian girl probably wouldn't have worked, seeing as how it's Helena Bertinelli. And if you're not going to go with the Helena Bertinelli, you're going to go with Helena Wayne, who's the daughter of Catwoman and Batman. That probably wouldn't have worked either. So you kind of had to make her black. You could have made, Renee Montoya is Latino. So you already got that.
There's black Latinos, so that does.
Well, no, you're right. You're right.
The only difference between those people, black Latinos and black Americans, is where the boat stops. So.
No, I hear you. But you got Renee Montoya is Latino. You got Cassandra Cain is Asian. You got and then you have Harley Quinn, who's white. You have Black Canary, who's white. Then you had Huntress, who was white. So I guess they felt they needed to get an African American in there somewhere. So I mean, I can't really fault them for doing that if they did.
It is what it is.
For that reason.
I'm not the type of person that gives a shit. As long as the movie is good and I feel satisfied at the end, what does it matter how much pigment that they have in their skin?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, especially when you have someone like Black Canary, where the pigmentation of her skin really wasn't that essential to her character. Like, her ethnicity was never the reason for her being a hero. Like, literally, Black Canary could have been anybody. Like, they were at one time they were thinking about having Janelle Monáe be Black Canary. I heard they were talking about Lady Gaga possibly being, Black Canary. I don't know.
Like I said, it is. And nowadays, nerds, they talk too much. And when I say that, it's just
they talk too much.
They analyze. I don't know if that's the proper term. I should say they just criticize way too much about what's going on. And as you were there back in 1989, and people criticized Michael Keaton as Batman. Criticize him, he's not Batman, blah, blah, blah. You can pull up news now because his stuff is still around. They criticize Michael Keaton as being Batman, and people right now would go in and say he's one of the best Batmans that's ever been around. So my honest opinion is nerds need to shut the fuck up until the movie's done. then talk about the movie, then criticize the people's acting, then talk about if this was there, if that was there. But when you just cast somebody, send something cast, you can't say anything. You don't know anything at all.
All right, what about if they cast Nicolas Cage as Batman?
No, please not.
Nicolas Cage has won an Oscar. So I'm pretty sure that
man, no,
he has he has this style of acting, which we know. I'm pretty sure he's capable of turning that style off if a director says, "Look, this is not how I want this scene to be done."
So you was okay with him being Superman in that god awful.
But that's the thing is, Superman you don't know that Superman movie. Hold on. Let me finish, Kanye. Let me finish. As I was saying, that movie was supposed to come out back in the 90s. We don't know what could have happened. Yes, there were some terrible ideas that were put forth that we saw right now. Terrible ideas. You know, putting spiders in there. That outfit that Superman was wearing looked really, really bad. It really didn't matter who they put in that suit. If they put anybody in that fucking shiny ass Power Rangers of a Superman suit, it probably wouldn't have worked. Period. It didn't matter if it was Nick Cage, Dean Cain, or freaking Christopher Reeve and his freaking hover round. It didn't matter who they put in there. It probably wouldn't have worked.
John Parrish over on YouTube says, "Bring Nick Cage in on a Crisis of Infinite Earth crossover for laughs." that would actually be pretty good. Go ahead, GQ.
Yeah. No, I mean the thing is, it's like I get what you're saying. I mean, you know, Nick Cage has his style, but I think that's the problem because Nick Cage's style is pretty much what helped ruin Ghost Rider. Because you had one director that did it, then they came back in the second one, and it got even worse. So it's like, yes, the director affects the tone of the film. The editor has an effect on the tone of the film. But, you know, Nick Cage being a Coppola has a lot of pull in Hollywood. And a lot of his style is because of the fact that most people, it's like he's usually putting money up for a lot of this stuff. And it's like once you're an executive producer, you call the shots. And I think I think that's part of the reason that they kept Nick Cage away from Superman, because he has that much influence and that much pull, where it's like, okay, yeah, Superman is going to be neurotic and weird and crazy as Clark Kent or Superman, or one of the two. So I think, like I said, there's always going to be people that give their opinion on why they think a particular person should or should not be in a role. And as long as it stays an opinion and it's not 100% outright judgment, like it's not going to be good or not. Because again, you go back to Michael Keaton's Batman, you go back to Heath Ledger's Joker. You know, there's people that knock it out of the park. Even a lot of people had to backtrack a little bit on Ben Affleck's Batman. Now, granted, Batman is old, like Megashawn likes to say, but it's like outside of the warehouse scene, which if you really get down to it, wasn't all him. His Batman was serviceable. Then Justice League, they threw all that away, basically, in my opinion. So,
yeah,
it's a give and take in that one.
All right, so here's my thing, right? So we know about the casting, but more importantly, let's talk about the film itself, right? So this is a Bird of Prey film that is basically being made as a Harley Quinn vehicle, right? This movie is being made to basically have Harley have a gang of girls. This is being kind of spearheaded by Margot Robbie herself, who plays Harley Quinn. She wanted an all-female led superhero movie starring Harley and a bunch of other female superheroes, and they go and defeat a villain. Now, the villain is going to be Black Mask, and he won't really need that explaining. But in this film, you're going to have Harley Quinn, who you already know, who most general audiences already know. But then as you said, you're going to have Black Canary, you're going to have Huntress, you're going to have Cassandra Cain, who has a complicated origin herself, and you have Renee Montoya, who may or may not be the question. So I want to pose this out there to the Junkie Nation and get your thoughts on it. Is this thing destined to be the typical DCEU fair, where it's like a whole bunch of stuff is going on, but nothing really coherently coming together? What's your thoughts?
Yes.
Why?
That's basically because there is no DCEU. They tried it because Marvel was doing it, but because hubris, more than likely, they didn't want to follow Marvel's 10-year plan. because it would take way too long to get stuff out. They were trying to just throw. I'm gonna tell you something. As much as I like this company, I'm about to freaking blast them. They were being like Sega, specifically when the Sega Saturn came around. They were trying to jump the gun and try to get a hold of something that somebody also had a plan that worked. And they didn't want to copy that plan. They thought that if they get the shit out there, that people will go see it just because their characters alone should be enough to drive the movies. There is no DCEU, because if there was, we have some movies that actually had some kind of connection, that had some kind of cross story, that would have the TV shows and the movies doing something, even though, again, we could say the TV shows are one universe and movies are another one. Who cares? Don't care. They just didn't do that stuff. So yeah, you hear right now there's 2 Joker movies coming out. You got the not Heath Ledger, the
Batman.
Phoenix one.
Yeah, the Joaquin Phoenix one,
and the Jared Leto one with Harley Quinn or whatnot. And
Harley and Joker, right?
They're just putting stuff out like they're comic books now, because that, like I said, that's one of the main reasons why I complain about comic books, is just because you can have 15 different Batman stories going on at once. I'm like, okay, so which one is the main one? And does any of them really matter if they got all these stories going on? So they're just movies out there to try to entertain people. They're throwing stuff out there. I don't think they're trying to even see what sticks anymore. They're just putting their characters out there, and there you go. Because if they really wanted to actually try to start a DCEU, my honest opinion, they need to start it with Shazam right now. Nobody knows who the fuck Shazam is. It's a perfect starting point, similar to how people didn't know who Iron Man was. Well, the majority of the masses out there didn't know who Iron Man was. And they started it there, and they turned him into a character that everybody knows. He's a top-tier A-list character now. But I don't think DC's going to do that. So, whatever.
In all honesty, is straight up. I think the issue is it shows that they're not paying attention to what they've already put out. The last time we saw Harley, yes, she was working with the Suicide Squad, but she right at the very end of the movie, she was back with the Joker. Amanda Waller basically kind of stated that she's crazier than he is, so she's not exactly the best person to be leading this film, on a heroic mission, because it's like, okay, the only reason you even hung around those guys, it was because you thought you saw the Joker die in that helicopter crash, because you were ready to drop all of that as soon as he showed up. The mission, forget the mission, you were ready to drop all of that and run back with him. So it's like, I'm not buying because again, in Suicide Squad, in the newer continuity, obviously in the book, she's, basically kind of skirting that line of being as being a heroic character. But you guys, Warner Brothers hasn't earned that yet. It's like you haven't told that story. So if you're going to suddenly just, here's Harley putting together a team, it's just like, okay, this doesn't really fit. This doesn't really work. And some of these characters are already heroic characters, so why should they team up with you? And I think that's the hurdle they're going to have to find a way to, to get across. And Renee Montoya is a cop, or, depending on if she's going to make a question or not, but she's a cop. So it's like, why would she join up with Harley unless it was mandated that she had to? So I think the problem is they're going about this the wrong way, just like kind of like what they did with Suicide Squad, in my opinion. It's like you threw Suicide Squad out there just to see if you could do an ensemble cast movie, and it failed. So why are you doing another one right away? Earn it first, So I think that's what the problem is.
Absolutely. So let's hear some comments from the Junkie Nation. First and foremost from Mr. The Birthday Boy, Megashawn is in the comments, says they don't know what the hell they're doing, which is absolutely true. And pretty much typical of what we've been saying about DC, Warner Brothers / DC for years. Let's see. Zach Brewer says there are currently 3 Harley Quinn projects in development and 0 plans for a Superman sequel. This is peak DC at its best, which it is. And Johnny Patton says if Shazam movie does good, it can tie in with the Black Adam movie / with The Rock, which, I mean, yeah, it probably could, but that doesn't necessarily mean, have anything to say about the Birds of Prey, movie. Now, here's, I'm in agreement with you, GQ, that, this seems like a lot more of the typical Warner Brothers, let's just throw a bunch of stuff out there and see what'll stick. They haven't earned this film, because it's like people, like you said, when people last saw Harley, you know, they saw her at the end of Suicide Squad. You know, Joker came to bust her out. And then now all of a sudden, next time you see her, she's going to be with these random superheroes in Gotham and taking down Black Mask. Like, how are you going to explain that? Like, how's that even going to work? Like, are you just going to ignore Suicide Squad and pretend like it doesn't exist? Which, honestly, wouldn't be a terrible thing. But I don't know, dude. It's just something about it. I just have a bad feeling about this whole thing. I just have a bad thing. Like, I do. Just overall, I just feel like I have a bad feeling story-wise.
But of course you do, because you're basically looking at the past DC, and you can use that to predict the future. That does happen from time to time, and it's we already have experienced many years of DC not doing what the fans want. They're doing what the executives think are going to make money, and I know somewhere down the line they've seen that we've been giving them money because we want to see these movies because we expect it to be good. I think people need to treat the next DC movie like Solo, because I like Solo. I thought it was a good movie. I think it fit in the universe, but the true fans of Star Wars, I'm not going to see that movie. Why is a new Star Wars movie coming out every year? It's been 4 Star Wars movies, and they're complaining only because of the nature of how Star Wars used to be with Lucas, where we got Star Wars movies every 20 fucking years. So they want to keep that tradition up. I'm not trying to be an old ass man watching Star Wars. Fuck you guys. Anyway.
I mean, wow, this just went on a tangent, but okay.
Because be an old ass man when the next Star Wars movies came out, they had their way. I want a new Star Wars movie every year. We're not getting one because people complain about Solo. But regardless of that, if the fans treated DC's movies like Solo, then you probably would get some improvements, maybe, because they could see that it didn't make any money, and they're like, all right, maybe we need to do something to change something. But despite Justice League not doing the numbers that Infinity War did, it was not going to do those numbers, but it did pretty gosh darn good for a failure of a movie. Which to them, they're like, well, we made our money back and we made some extra. So obviously, they're not thinking like the rest of the world. They're thinking if they got a profit, they got something coming to them, it's a success. So I think that's what they're going to.
Oh, looks like he killed himself. He killed his internet anyway. We'll wait for him to rejoin and maybe he can finish his thought. You know, it's probably because he was banging his desk a little bit too hard. He should probably refrain from doing that. But Zach Brewer brings up a pretty good point as well. He says, you know, Birds of Prey with Harley Quinn as the villain would have been pretty interesting. I think it would have been pretty interesting. Maybe they were running around trying to capture her. That would have been pretty cool. But,
right, but it's like you're having them take on Black Mask, which is like, it's weird because it's like, okay, why are you introducing Black Mask this way?
Right.
It's like, because for me, Black Mask and Under the Red Hood was perfect. Like,
yeah, he was.
Black Mask I want to see.
Right.
But you're talking about essentially what it is it's a low grade Suicide Squad, and obviously it's not the same parameters as Suicide Squad. But the problem is, it's like you're trying to have her, you know, be the lead in the film, and it's like, why? What is it about? I mean, again, granted, yes, in the comics, Harley's, you know, one of the leaders of the Suicide Squad, but when it comes to Birds of Prey, like on the TV show, they just had her as the psychiatrist, and that was it. So there's no real connection there like that. I mean, like the Birds of Prey were, you know, 3 Gotham, vigilantes, you know, women basically. So it's like, where does Harley fit into this whole equation?
Well, I think for them, they're looking at it from the merchandising standpoint, whereas Harley is a big mover for women. Outside of, I think she's probably a little bit under Wonder Woman as far as like being able to move merchandise. I mean, you go to Hot Topic and they, you know, when Hot Topic was running, when Suicide Squad came out, you know, Hot Topic had all this whole Harley Quinn stuff, and they probably still do.
Well, they have the whole costume, but I mean, that's fine. But the problem is, it's like, again, Wonder Woman worked because the narrative was well done. Obviously, I don't care what nobody says, it was still a very soft retread of Captain America, the First Avenger. I don't care what anybody says, I'm still going to hold that opinion because, yes, it was during a wartime. However, the story was almost the same damn thing. Because, you know, a lot of the beats were the same. but it still worked. Patty Jenkins she put her work in, and she did a good job with the character. I still don't like Gal Gadot casting, but whatever. The film, was successful. Excuse me, did its job. But for them to think that, okay, we can just take any female character and throw them in a film and women are going to flock to it. No, Wonder Woman has been a female icon for generations, for decades. It's not like she's just a character that they picked out of a hat. It's like people have been wanting a Wonder Woman film for a long time, and then they finally get one and it's done well. So it's like, okay, cool. That's why that was that did well. That's why it's still one of the higher grossing DCEU films. It might be the highest. Hold on, is Suicide Squad the highest, or is that one the highest? I don't remember.
I'd have to look that up. I don't know that for sure. I'd have to look it up. But
right, but either way, it's like that film did well because they put the work in.
Right.
Yeah.
And they weren't tied to the Zack Snyder isms, that were established in Man of Steel and Batman vs Superman. That also probably helped it along as well. They kind of just divorced themselves from all of that. But Harley being in this film, I think, has more to do with her overall popularity in the DC universe at large. They want to cash in on women or girls wanting to go and see this because Harley's in it. Which isn't necessarily a bad ploy, but it's got to work from a story standpoint. And I just don't think that, as you alluded to, that they've earned that. They just haven't earned it. But time will tell.
Wow. Zach in the chat is brutal. He said DC has the same standards. Hold on, it moved. DC has the same standards as crackheads to steal copper. Any man is somebody to know. That's just cold. That's about as cold and as savage as you can get.
Yo, I totally missed that.
Zach, though. Big ups to Zach though on that one, because that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's a good one.
But I mean, and some of the other guys like Q and Q in the chat has also brought up that Justice League was a failure. It was the lowest grossing film at the DCEU, which in and of itself is a shame.
It's a shame
because it's you should not be getting beat by Thor: The Dark World. Thor Ragnarok.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a full-on team up of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Cyborg. It's like that's what people have been waiting for, and for it to come out and then fall flat on its face like that. Now, granted, it made money because of just the fact that it's a comic book movie in the era of comic book movies, but it didn't make its money. It didn't make nearly as much money as it should have made, because obviously you're seeing the fallout of the DCEU of like, oh, we can't do this connected universe thing. It's not working. No, it's like, no, it's not working because you didn't do it right. You rushed to do it.
Absolutely. So, all right. So enough about that. We'll get to more of Birds of Prey as kind of story details and other things come out. So moving on to the next thing. Fortnite was announced today that they've pretty much squeezed the compliance out of Sony, and PS4s are now going to allow cross-platform play with all of the other systems, Switch and Xbox and PC, which is kind of cool. But it starts to make you think, okay, is this maybe the start of something bigger? Because a lot of people have been asking for cross-platform play for games not like Fortnite, Rocket League. They've been asking for it for like Call of Duty, for Battlefield. I would love to see it so I could play Megashawn in 2K again. I buy 2K so I could play him again. Because I don't have an Xbox, and I'm not going to get one because I have a PC. So what do you think about this decision by Sony to kind of cave to the pressure? And is this possibly a sign of something bigger? What do you think?
I think Fortnite was the only IP that could actually get it done. A lot of the games you mentioned have had long-standing, like, for example, sports games. People play them on the platform they play them on. That's this is kind of how it's always been. Right. Fortnite is one of those that transcends because it is a free-to-play. It is something that will get people to get a system. And if they're not able to play with their friends that, maybe, for example, they went over to their friend's house and their friends had an Xbox and they played Fortnite, like, oh man, this is sweet. All right, well, I don't have an Xbox. Let me get one so I can play against you or whatever. That's the only way Sony was going to start losing numbers to Microsoft, because the exclusives, Sony's exclusives, and the fact that, they had a huge install base this generation, this time around, was like, we don't really have to kowtow to anybody because of the fact that we're outselling Xboxes, 4-1 in a lot of cases. But Fortnite comes along and it's a game that's just caught on like wildfire, and it's a free to play game. It's like you just got to download the damn thing. So I think that's one of those. If you don't play ball with something that's that big, you are going to get left in the dust because people will start going back in because all you need is a base Xbox One to play it. You don't need nothing crazy. That's only a couple $100. So I think that was one of those. Okay, people might not, especially if there's a lot more people playing on Xbox than there are PS4. I don't know the numbers because I don't play the game, but that's one of those you cannot pass that up. You have to keep that. That's the only way you stay on top is if you bend a little bit when you have to, and Fortnite is big enough to make them bend.
So you don't think that this could possibly cross over into other titles? Because like I said, Rocket League was doing it. I think that was one of the first ones to actually do it, and now Fortnite comes along, does it. Now, I don't know if PUBG does it. I'm unsure. All these battle royale games seem to be the ones to do it, but couldn't it theoretically cross over to the sports games, to the first-person shooter games?
It definitely could, but at the same time, EA is never hurting, or 2K is never hurting when it comes time to sell them, Madden or the next NBA 2K or whatever. They get their numbers.
Right.
They're not even worried about that. Fortnite is one of those. Everybody and their mama except me is playing that game. So
yeah, me too. I'm not playing it.
Right. So it's like it's being downloaded by everybody because again, it's free. So I mean, that you start off with free. That's the perfect number for a lot of people. So when you have an IP that's growing that fast, that big, you can't deny it. That's almost like if World of Warcraft, or remember what was it, EverQuest? Remember back then, EverQuest and all that. Everybody was talking about EverQuest.
EverQuest Online.
If EverQuest was going to drop on systems and consoles, and people were going to start playing it, and they weren't going to charge for anything but like the subscription fee or whatever, but everybody wanted to play together. They would have figured out cross-platform back then because the numbers would have been too big for them to ignore. Because again, sports games, you get them every single year, whatever. It's just, and the player base is going to recycle itself every single year because they're yearly releases. But something like Fortnite, all that they got to do is just drop in new content. The game is already there. It's a base game. They don't, it's essentially what Destiny wanted to be. So it's and it's free. So I mean, I think those numbers are too big for them to ignore. It's like we got to jump in and play ball and open up this cross-platform because otherwise. That will be the one way that Microsoft is starting to catch up.
Well, first of all, let me say hi to Sev. Sev is over in the chat watching the show live. He says he's not also playing it. He also said to hell with the Birds of Prey movie, by the way. So hi Sev. Glad you could be watching us live. Appreciate you. But so what keeps them from making more cross-platform play games? Because like if you think about it, right? The only things that really matter to the systems are the exclusives. Like, we just had Spider-Man come out this past month. It's the fastest selling PS4 game in history. What was like 3.3 million units sold within a week or something like that. I think that's what it said.
It was something crazy.
Yeah, it was something like just ridiculous. And on top of that, they're probably selling systems because, like I said, I got my PS4 Pro for Spider-Man. Other people probably got their PS4 Pro for Spider-Man, or a PS4 for Spider-Man, or borrowing like Super Nerd did for Spider-Man. So if it's not the exclusives that you have to consider, and you went to the just the non-exclusive games that could do online multiplayer cross-platform, what is keeping them from doing that? What is keeping them from making it full cross-platform?
I think you already mentioned was keeping them from doing that. This is just simply it. I buy a PlayStation 4. I'm the first of my friends to buy a PlayStation 4. The rest of my friends are like, oh, man, hey, you're going to pick up that NBA 2K 45. Yeah, I'm saying 45 because this is hypothetical, but what have you? You say, yeah, I want to pick that up. You buy a PlayStation 4 to play with me. GQ buys a PlayStation 4 to play with me. We play in the fucking NBA game together because that's how, those things work. And they try to keep it like that because if one person in a group of friends buys one thing, they're more than likely that other people are going to because they want to play with their friends. That's the reason why a lot of people bought Xbox 360s back in the day. Not only was the Xbox 360 completely doing online differently. It made a lot easier to connect with your friends and play games and set it up all a lot easier. And that's why Xbox 360 sold extremely well. And people buy what their friends buy. That's just how it is. That's whatever is popular with one person is going to get popular with the other ones. And the reason why Fortnite now is being cross-platform is because there was and I'm assuming with these numbers is also on Sony, is 78 million players of Fortnite in the month of August alone. That's going to say, you know what? Pretty sure the people at Epic probably threw Sony some money and say, hey, look, you guys are, got your games, you got you guys out there selling the systems. We want this to happen so people can play together. So now friends can play on their Android, on their iPhones, on their Xboxes, on their freaking PlayStation. It doesn't really necessarily matter. And in my honest opinion, that's how it should be, because like the system sellers out there, they're trying to sell the systems. Publishers out there trying to sell games. So I'm pretty sure they don't really give a shit what system the game is on, because if you put the game on a PlayStation, they put it on an Xbox, they're trying to sell a fucking game. They don't give a shit what you playing it on, right?
There's no preference. Yeah. I get you.
They just want to sell the fucking game, and 78 million. And the thing is, as we all said, that Fortnite is free, but they're making money hand over fist for people.
But the microtransactions, yes.
And these microtransactions don't make you better at the game. They're just all cosmetic. So that right there is they're giving them money, and they probably threw some at Sony, and Sony said, you know what, we might as well do it, because in my opinion, they should have been doing this a long time ago. Just because, why not? What is the point of separating the servers to just satisfy your own ego? That's basically what it is. It's just like, oh, we want our system to sell them all. Okay, so it sells a whole bunch, and that's just how it is. Players are gonna just go where their friends are. In my honest opinion, I don't think it makes a difference if they play on Xbox or because the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One are damn near close in architecture. Like it's ridiculous how close they are. So that could be a factor to why they caved in. Who knows? We don't really know. Maybe, like I said, I think the main reason is that Epic threw them some money, and they're just not saying anything.
It could be that, but like I said, it also goes back to, it's one thing to give the players the experience that they're clamoring for and that sort of thing and this and that. The other thing is Sony, Microsoft, all of them, they're still businesses trying to make money.
Exactly. I know it's trying to make money.
Yeah, so them having exclusivity and keeping their servers separate, basically, and all that other sort of thing comes from, I still want to sell more PlayStations than they sell Xboxes.
I can understand that.
And you can understand that, but it just, like, going back to the whole thing, of course they want to sell more than the other one. And yeah, if you keep it separate, maybe that will help them sell more of them. I don't personally understand it, because like I said, if my friends are buying something, you're more typical to buy that said program, and so you can play with them. And I guess you can say, saying that's probably why they wanted to keep it separate, because if your friends buy them all, we want you to buy our stuff and not their stuff. So to them, I think it's just Epic threw them some money.
Yeah, probably. Johnny in the chat saying sounds like Fortnite is the new Evercrack, which is 100% correct.
Oh yeah, and it's big with the kids. I was at the community center a few Sundays ago, Filipino community center where I frequently go, and the kids were running around playing Fortnite, and I think to myself, I'm like, this. And I don't mean playing Fortnite on the console. I don't mean on the console. I mean they were playing like Cops and Robbers or Tag. They were playing Fortnite, running around pretending to shoot.
You mean like in real life? Real life Fortnite?
Yes, and I'm thinking to myself, it's like,
okay,
we grew up with video games, and one of the earliest, most popular video games was either Pac-Man, Super Mario, whatever. I don't ever recall ever running around a playground like, all right, I'm Pac-Man, I'm gonna run around, walk, or fucking Super Mario, bro. You just fucking played the goddamn game.
That's because we had Cops and Robbers, Cowboys and Indians, and all that other sort of stuff. That's what we played. But again, they don't have that. They don't have that now by comparison. Fortnite is their Cops and Robbers.
And I still think, and I put this already in chat, I think Fortnite is popular only because of stupid dances. I really think it is, because they started to put these wind dances in there. Kids can do these fucking dances in real life. And then it was like, I want to do that. Oh, my friend's doing a dance. Or, fuck no, whatever. I think it's crazy.
Okay, I guess I can understand that. the sentiment behind it. I you know, maybe I just wish I could, you know, play my friends across the platforms without having to buy another platform. Because like I said, I got a computer. I don't need to buy an Xbox. I can buy everything I want to play on Xbox is going to come on PC anyway, and I'll still be able to play it with them anyway. So anyway, moving right along to our final topic of the evening is something that it's another DC topic, and I know we're a little DC heavy today, but you know, I kind of wanted to talk about it because it was pretty interesting. It's kind of a hot topic in the comic book world, with this being New Comic Book Day. But the new book, Heroes in Crisis. It's another DC Crisis event, but it's nothing to do with other worlds or multiple Earths or anything like that. It's got to do with the human psyche and superhero PTSD. Now, you would imagine that the numerous horrors that our fictional heroes are exposed to day in and day out while they're crime fighting and protecting their worlds would expose them to things that kind of make them go a little bit crazy. I mean, hell, look at Batman. I mean, Batman is the poster child for PTSD. In fact, you can attribute PTSD to, you know, why Batman even exists in general. So this new story starts off with a mass shooting at a care center, a psychological care center for superheroes that are dealing with the fallout from heavy events that could trigger their PTSD, like say for like Kyle Rayner. You know, Kyle Rayner's, you know, the Green Lantern who took over for Hal Jordan after he became Parallax. You know, one of the most messed up things that ever happened to him was Major Force cut up his girlfriend and stuffed her in a refrigerator and left him for him to find. I mean, and he opened up the door and he was exposed to that. How does a superhero deal with that type of thing? So I wanted to ask everybody out there, is this something that you kind of really want to see in a story about our superheroes? Because I have another tact I want to get to it too. So let's discuss this first part and I'll get to the other part afterwards. Dido, what about this story kind of speaks to you, or is this something that you'd be interested in reading?
Well,
if you read it.
I didn't read them, probably not going to read it. It does seem interesting, and the reason why it's interesting to me is because of the Netflix TV show The Punisher. Anybody watch The Punisher? It really heavily dealt with PTSD, mainly because the character was in, you know, the military. He lost his family. He also dealt with another person that was in therapy for PTSD and all this other stuff, and you can kind of really feel. I think the actors portrayed characters that emoted real well. That really, even though I'm not in the military, I still felt emotion from them in this. So it's for good stories. You know, good stories get you invested in the characters, and if you feel with the characters, if you have some kind of feeling with them, you put more of yourself into it, the more you want to read. So I think them just making a comic book series like this is doing basically the same thing that the Punisher did for me, for a lot of people out there. So, you know, it opens it up for a lot of discussion because, you know, superheroes do see a lot of stuff, a lot of crazy stuff. I don't know how Batman deals with it because, you know, we know Batman is fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not as crazy as a Joker where he's cutting his own face off and then wearing it as
one might make the argument that he is, but, you know, that's a whole nother argument.
I don't think Batman would cut his face off and wear the maggot-infested mask. I don't think so. That's fucking crazy.
but he would stay up for days on end and drive himself past the point of exhaustion just to fight crime. I mean, there's different, you know, crazy can be on same wavelength. You know, no, but it's absolutely insane for you to actually do some of the things that Batman does, and I think that's what this series is going to be all about a little bit. So GQ, I'm going to turn it over to you. What about this story lends relevance, and why is this kind of a good thing for DC to be doing, in your opinion?
It depends, because if you really want to, and Dido hit it right on the head when he brought up the Punisher. This is something Marvel's been doing for forever. Like, Marvel's been talking about the heroes and their personal lives and how things affect them and all that for a long time. And I think that was a lot of the appeal of Marvel for people. It's like you could relate to Spider-Man. You could, you know, because everybody's got bills. Everybody's got to make rent. Everybody's got a job. They got to work. So they brought it down to the human level already. They had been doing that for forever. On DC side of things, the only person that was outside of Green Arrow that was a human, somewhat relatable person was Batman, because of the fact that he is straight up 100% human. He's just peak level. But like Superman, Alien, godlike. Yeah, he has to hold down a job for for sake of appearances. He doesn't really have to work. He doesn't. It's like he's got the forces of solitude. Yeah, exactly. So it's like he doesn't really have to deal with the day to day. The Green Lanterns, they're more often than not off world. So it's like, okay, then you got like it's like all these other characters as you get to it, you've always seen them as that's them in the costume. They don't really necessarily deal with their day to day. Now the only time they really started hitting on like their crises and things that they were going through was like, for example, when Speedy was like strung out on heroin or whatever it was. And Green Arrow had to deal with that. Stuff like that only pops up every now and again. So for them to try to say, oh, we're going to do an entire book about it, okay, cool, that's fine. But where was this all throughout this time when Marvel was kicking you guys' butts in the comics, showing all of these different things and all this stuff that these heroes go through, on top of saving the world and all the other stuff that they were doing? Like the X-Men books were freaking amazing.
They are.
With all the different ways that they were treating, like each character was getting their things that they were going through, leaving the team, coming back, whatever, the various, personal problems and personal demons that they were dealing with. And then DC's all of a sudden now, which again is fine, is, throw it against the wall, see if it sticks.
Right.
But it's like, okay, you're trying to hit this one note that you guys have never hit before, and it might work, but I swear to goodness, certain characters better not show up in that book. Because if you put Superman in that book, I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna be laughing my ass off and be like, dude.
He is in the book, but he's not under scrutiny. And I don't want to necessarily spoil it for the readers that want to go and pick up the book. And I actually kind of recommend it because I think it's a good book. There's people that die in this book in the very first issue, in the first few panels. Actually, 2 of them are extremely shocking for different reasons. But others you won't necessarily feel as much, but they're still dead. But, as we all know, death is never permanent in comics anyway. One has to wonder whether these deaths will even stick. But I think one of the things that, like you touched on, is this is almost like another attempt for them to humanize their characters, which have been typically seen as, like you said, godlike, unrelatable. They're above it all. They're trying to bring them back down to the human relatable level. Because Marvel, as you said, that was basically baked into them from the very beginning. They were human. They'd had real problems to deal with. They weren't just having these fantastic adventures and nothing ever was wrong in their personal lives. They always got the girl. They always, succeeded over the villain. They never got beat up. They always overcame. But, these ones, this story is all about them actually dealing with some really serious stuff. And it's a 9-issue miniseries that started today, and it focuses on 2 characters, Booster Gold and Harley Quinn. And it's interesting that they picked them to focus the show upon. I want to say hello to Francisco Vera, so over there in the Facebook chat.
Also, what's up to Tony Young just joined in too.
Better late than never. He wants to know, what did he miss? You're gonna have to hit that run back, Tony. I'm not. We've been at this for a little too long. I can't recap the entire show for you, so just hit that run back when it's all done. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. I like it. I like it, but cool. I don't know.
It seems cool, but I mean, again, it'll probably work as a limited thing. What it basically harkens back to me is the Injustice storyline and how that kicked off. That was the first time that somebody had completely broken Superman down and actually got him to snap. And I think that's what they're trying to, and it's like people love that storyline. And obviously I had a video game to tie in with it and all that other sort of thing. But I think what really connected with people is like Superman finally just snapped and outright just murdered the Joker. Like, no holds barred, didn't think twice, and what he went through was messed up. So it's like, okay, cool. Superman finally did something normal. But then like you get this whole fallout of, he's taking over the world basically because of that fact. So it's like, okay, so now you guys went to this huge extreme. And fine, and like I said, for that story, it actually works. But that's the problem with Superman. It's either on or off. It's never right there in the middle. And that's why I've always been bored by the character, because it's like truth, justice, the American way, blah blah blah, or he's completely evil, or it's the Red Sun thing, and it's just like he has no middle line. And that's why I've always liked Batman. Batman is like, and like Dado said earlier, Batman is crazy, because essentially, if you really look at his character, it will only take a little bit of a push, just like the Joker always says, for you to be like me. Batman is the mirror opposite of the Joker, because where Joker kills people and does it, enjoys it, and that's what he does. Batman won't kill people, but he has that same obsessive drive, just like the Joker. The Joker is obsessed with Batman and wants to make him snap. Batman is obsessed with trying to stop crime by any means necessary outside of killing people. So Batman is in and of himself crazy, and I'm sure if if you could get him to sit still long enough for a psychologist to analyze him, he'd have a whole laundry list of issues.
Problems. Without question.
Right, but the thing is, it's like, I think the problem is that's the only character they've ever had that's been relatable like that, even though he's still, with prep time and all that other stuff, way beyond the average human abilities and all that other sort of thing. But a lot of their other characters have, like, again, Martian Manhunter, Alien, in the cartoons. And that's what the funny thing is, the Justice League cartoons were the only time they would dig into those characters a little bit and show you some of that other side of here's what they do during their downtime. Some of their best episodes from the Justice League was like the Day Off episode, where like the Green Lantern and Hawkgirl went to like whatever planet or whatever just to hang out. Like, it wasn't even like a mission; it was just to hang out. Like, stuff like that is what has been missing, and that's
Absolutely.
that's in animation. DC's great at it, but as far as in their books and stuff, I haven't really seen it that much. So I don't know. We'll see.
Seeing them on downtime was some of the best stuff. And even that episode of The Flash where he was running around town and relating to the people, and it was like, who was it? I think it wasn't Batman. Day? Yeah, it was Flash Appreciation Day, but it was like the heroes that went with Flash on this adventure and saw how he was revered in Central City, even though they thought he was a complete buffoon, and it showed him like
Batman knew what was up, and he forced Orion, which is hilarious. He made Orion go. It's like, dude,
was it Orion? Yeah, it was Orion. Yeah, it was Orion. Okay,
like, dude, Orion, it was Orion and one other person, but it was like, Orion is like way more powerful than you, and Batman just gave him the bat stare. He was like, why would we go to that buffoon thing? And Batman just sitting there typing on the computer. He's like, why would we go to that buffoon thing? Batman just trying to give him that turn, give him that stare. It was just
like okay.
And then he was like, it's not Black Tie, is it? I was like, dude. So stuff like that is why it's like, that's why I don't like what they're doing in the movies, because you can't. The Conroy Batman, the Mark Hamill Joker, the stories that were told in that animation were classic. And they were just they captured the essence of the character to a point where it's just like, dude, Batman hold out a guy that can snap him in half just by giving him a look. And it was just like, it's like Martian Manhunter stepped aside on that one episode. He's just like, you're not gonna try to stop me, are you? I'm like, dude, this dude is basically alien. He's like Green Superman minus the fire, problem.
Yes.
Like, he's nothing. I'm like, okay. That's why they used to love those stories, because it was just like, they were just so well done. It was like, dude, man. And if that's what I wish they could get back to in the movies, and they can't, because they're too far gone. They'd have to reboot everything.
They would. They'd have to reboot everything, and somebody like, I don't know, Bruce Timm might have to just completely be Jeff Johns, even though Jeff Johns has had his chance. But if Bruce Timm got his hands on it and say, hey, Bruce, you don't have to animate nothing. You just be the architect of the direction, the story, everything. You just guide us all, and we'll just make the movies. Okay, I'd be fine with that. But anyway, so do we think, is this something that we need to see more of from the DC to kind of, I don't want to say get serious, because I think Johnny Patton brought it up about this being a little too real when superheroes are supposed to be about escapism, and now we've got writers that are trying to desperately put in a bunch of real world stuff that kind of will bring you down. Could this end up backfiring on DC and Marvel? Because I think Marvel does it as well. So could it, Dido, what do you think? Could this end up backfiring because we want escapist fantasy in our comic books?
No, I don't think it can backfire at all, because if there was one comic book in the whole entire world and everybody disagreed that they didn't like it, then yeah, it could probably fail. But because there's so many different storylines and so many different stuff, that specific line would fail. You just don't read it. It's not gonna freaking ruin anything. If they do it well, I think people will like it, because, like I said, it brings people, for whatever reason, like human, something they can see in themselves in their entertainment. And that's probably one of the reasons why the Avengers did so well, is because they did humanize Thanos. You could empathize somewhat with him. He wasn't just an obstacle like a lot of other villains. He actually had ideas, he had motives, he had freaking emotions. He showed those emotions, and he still had a goal that he set out and done. And most villains in a lot of movies are just obstacles. I mean, you compare Thanos to Steppenwolf, he's just an obstacle in a way. That's but people like Thanos because, I think, because they put some kind of human characteristics in him. So I don't necessarily see the storyline being done well, unless it's really written poorly. They put those same qualities in there, then you're probably going to see a successful storyline where they're going to do it with others. But I can't really say for sure, because I don't know.
GQ, what do you think?
No, that's fair. I would think that, again, it goes back to you can lump it back into the bin of DC's trying to be dark and edgy again, but there's nothing wrong with, telling a real story. I mean, it's like, it's relatable. I mean, there's something out there for everybody. That's what comic books, that's what movies, that's how video games are made. If it's just one size fits all, it doesn't work, and it's going to fail. But if you have something that caters to what people are into, there's people that do like the darker stories, the more realistic stories, the gritty stories, and there's people that like the sunshine and rainbow stories. So it's like, there's nothing wrong with them telling the superhero PTSD storyline in this style of narrative. I just think, me personally, they're going to have to really, really approach it and dig in, because you can't take these characters that you've been treating with kid gloves, so to speak, psychologically, for all these years, and suddenly, we're going to break them down and this and that. It's like, okay, only certain characters can get that treatment, because otherwise it's going to look weird and it's going to seem strange. And for all the stuff that you've done with these characters all this time, it just looks like you are, again, reversing things and trying to make something work that may or may not be a good fit, based on some of the different characters. Because that's why I didn't like Batman sitting there cracking jokes like he was the Flash in the Justice League movie, because Batman isn't the Flash. So,
I got you. And, speaking of, DC being edgy, the other thing that came out last weekend was Batman Damned, and the whole Batwang controversy that all came out. That book shot up in value overnight, dude. Everybody said, "Oh, was Batman? His penis is on full display. Let's go ahead and flip this book and sell it for $1,000 now." Okay, just weird, but whatever.
Okay, okay. That. All right. I paid extra money for a PlayStation Pro. That's an investment. That's a good thing. And buying a book just because Batman's penis is on display. That in and of itself is starting to get a little bit strange. I understand that there's a market out there for every type of collector, but that's dumb. I mean, if you pay extra money for a Batman book because Batman's penis is on display, something's wrong with you. Just a little bit.
It might be.
The reason why they're paying extra money for it is not because it's something that never happened before. It's just,
I get that, but still,
and it makes it something special, because from my understanding, I heard that they were going to censor some the.
Oh wow, that will even make it even more rare.
So,
okay,
yeah, that's
all
the
right.
whole thing. It's just because something that didn't happen before. So collector's gonna be out there when something that has never been done before comes out, and it's a limited thing. It's gonna be worth money.
I know, I understand. Again, as a collector, I completely understand that. I just think that's a little bit odd.
Yeah.
Just just a little bit.
It's just an extra piece of flesh that people want to see drawn, whatever. Who cares?
I know. It's Rule 34 Batman. I know.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just not fully crossing over into hentai Batman, but they've already gone there anyway, and at least other artists have anyway. So speaking of odd, so tonight is supposed to be the debut of the X-Men Dark Phoenix trailer, which is supposed to be the final X-Men Fox movie before Marvel takes full control. You expecting a really good trailer, being entertained, or you expect it to be absolute crap?
I don't know, and I just hope that this is what I hope not going to happen, because as you know, fans don't get what they want for the most part. When it comes to movies specifically, this one is still being produced by Fox. What I want is that they had done 3 months of reshoots, if I remember correctly. It took them 3 months to initially shoot the movie, which led some people to believe that it wasn't just a reshoot, that they were kind of just redoing the whole entire movie. Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see. But what I'd like is that now that Disney is in the process, for some people already done buying Fox, maybe they are done, maybe they're not done, who knows, don't know, but it's going to happen, that they're using this movie to reset the universe, to gently slide it in to the Marvel cinematic universe where it would fit. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, because I do 100% think that when it becomes a Marvel fully owned property run by Kevin Feige, that everybody who portrayed every X-Men is not getting their jobs back. I don't think any of them.
Clean slate.
Not 100% think it's going to be a clean slate, because now we control this. Now it's we're going to do, because look at this. And the only thing is Sony owns Spider-Man's rights, right? Why didn't they use the Amazing Spider-Man as the Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe? They could have, 100%. They could have just used him, because he was already there. No, they reset that. They reset it. New Peter Parker, new Spider-Man, put him in the story right there. They didn't have to do that. They could have wrote everything exactly the same, except for him not being in high school, him being in college, maybe, him being older. Who knows? Don't care. But it was a clean slate. So I think that's exactly what's going to happen with the X-Men franchise. You're getting a new Wolverine, you're getting a new Cyclops, you're getting a new everybody, and hopefully they are better represented than the Fox brand was. And I say that wholeheartedly because I remember all you motherfuckers of how you talked about Wolverine back in the year 2000. Now everybody is on his fucking tip of his claws or kissing his knuckles, whatever. They're just, oh, it's the best Wolverine ever, best Wolverine ever.
GQ.
Just like Heath Ledger.
What do you think?
Just like Michael Keaton.
Yeah, I'd say, it sucks for the actors, but dump them all, start over. Because the thing is, if you bring any of those actors over, you're stuck with whatever storylines that have been, essentially you're stuck with whatever storylines feature that cast of characters.
Man, that means we gotta lose McAvoy though, man. He was so good as Professor Xavier though. Fassbender was so good as Magneto. Damn.
It doesn't matter though, because I've even seen people say that Daniel Craig could be Magneto, and it's very possible. So it's like
that actually would be pretty dope.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm not the only one I've ever been tied to was Stewart. Patrick Stewart as Xavier back in the day was a no-brainer. It was like if they cast anybody else but Patrick Stewart, I would have a very hard time watching that film and believing that this is supposed to be X-Men. Mm-hmm. But once they got Stewart in the mix, it was like sweet. And then like Dido said, a lot of people were down on Wolverine when he first showed up because it was like he's too tall, he's not cut, blah blah blah. And then Hugh Jackman took that role and made it his own.
Yeah, he did.
I will definitely say that if they reboot it, cool. But they got to ease the X-Men in. I honestly do not want to see an X-Men movie just be like, bam, X-Men. It's like, no, you guys have to ease it. I mean, again, who knows how they're going to do it? It could be something Infinity Gauntlet related, universes colliding, whatever. You got mutants back now. You don't have to use Inhumans or any of this other stuff, or the enhanced or whatever the hell they call them. But ease it back in. I don't want it to just suddenly be the Avengers are fighting and next you know they bump into the full-on X-Men team. It's like, no, ease a couple of mutants in here and there. And if you get a good Wolverine, you know, if you want to throw Wolverine in Avengers 4, I'd be cool with that. And if Jackman wants to come back and play that role and get killed off, that'd be even cooler.
That'd be really dope.
But I'd be fine with that. But outside of that, I don't want the X-Men to just suddenly get a film in like 2020. I want it to be like, we're gonna make this part of the fold the way we've been doing it, full on connected universe.
Phase 5 or Phase 4?
It could be late Phase 4, in my opinion. Okay. Even if they go now, hell, if they get real crazy and do X-Men versus Avengers as a film.
You guys did that
would be something else,
that, right?
That would be something else.
Not X-Men versus Avengers. What I've heard is they're not going to be a team up like they used to. They said the Marvel movies moving forward after Avengers, my understanding, are not going to be like how it was the last 10 years. So there's probably going to be a lot of standalone stuff where they're not really connected to it.
Oh no, and again, I'm not saying that I'm opposed to that, because again, for the past 10 years, I have been extremely entertained with the connected universe, and it's unprecedented. Now, granted, it's expensive to do that, because I guarantee Infinity War and and Avengers 4 are probably some of the most expensive movies ever. That being said, they make their money. There's no doubt about that. But I think if they do more of the standalone stuff, and like you said, maybe keep it connected through just maybe casual mentions, and then every now and again do big event movies, I think that would be a good way to do it. Because in that way, it's like, look, these standalone, essentially just like what they did with Phase 1. All these standalones that had little minor connections here and there, and then here's the big event movie that ties it all together. I would have absolutely no problem with that if that's how the X-Men, Fantastic Four, or whatever are headed moving forward.
Well, only time will tell. But if you're gonna watch the Dark Phoenix trailer, it's gonna be premiering later on tonight, probably around 11:30, 12 o'clock, because Sophie Turner will be joining the Late Show with was it James Corden, I think, on CBS. So yeah, I'll probably just catch it in the morning anyway. I got better things to do. I'm not checking for Fox X.
It's not an Avengers trailer.
Yeah, it's not. It's
Avengers
not.
4.
It's not.
Avengers 4.
Yeah, I'd be there.
In the morning, I'm like,
I'd be there. Absolutely.
I'm working 5 hours while I'm watching this 50-second trailer.
Yeah, I'd be there.
Up.
Yep, and I'd be replaying that boy like 2 or 3 times before I went to bed too. Absolutely.
Yep.
So anyway, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get out of here. We'll be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central Time. We may or may not have a special guest along with us, so make sure you check our Facebook or our Twitter page for any updates. Subscribe to us on YouTube and also on our Instagram. Super Nerd Plus be going wild over there with retro commercials, cartoons, cool photos, and all the other stuff. So for Great Dadakuji and for GQ, I am Kishiro. We'll see you guys next week. Peace out.
Later, fellas.